This episode actually is based on a question that Nolan Hastings asked, whether or not the Lumix G-7, where I'm currently filming on, the 14mm lens, is actually suitable to be mounted on the Crane M2 with the screen flipped to the outside. And that actually was a very good question, because beginning I thought, okay, this is simple, let's test it. And the simple answer is yes, it can be done. I've tested it. I'll show you some footage on the end of this episode. I have actually managed to get the setting and it just about fits. So once you mount your camera on here, and you really want to have your screen flipped out so you can film actually, it makes sense. It's a very good question. You can, but the setting is literally on the end of the horizontal axis. So that itself, it means it works, the crane works, so you can do most of the actual maneuvers. Yeah, so you can do PF, L, V, go, vortex. No, vortex you can't. It doesn't work somehow with the G7. I've tried it multiple times, but it doesn't work. And that's one of the limitations, I think, of the Crane 2. You can mount whatever camera you want to, but ultimately those on the compatibility list are the ones that are fully supported. So Nolan, or any of you, if you're really looking to mount this a camera which is not on the compatibility list, you can via the vertical and horizontal axis. It probably requires a bit much for the motor at times, specifically when you want to do barrel loops with vortex mode. Yeah, that itself can be challenging. That said, as I said in previous blogs, you can mount it and you can film with it. Now, the problem here is that I'm not the best filmer out there, and I've seen your channel, Nolan, and you seem to be somebody who is pretty much advanced in filming, or at least knows how to present it that way. So that is fantastically done by you. You can indeed mount your camera on it with the screen to the outside or tilted upwards or whatever way you want it. You can easily do that, but since the camera isn't on the compatible list for cameras, it goes into vortex mode, it isn't the best. Another thing which I realized, and this is why your question is so good, is because you really are thinking of buying the Lumix G7. Now, I would always say buy this camera, it only gets cheaper. Yeah? Half a year ago it was still 500 euros, now you can get a body for 350 euro. So that is an amazing buy. You've got a fantastic camera for shooting stills, if you're like me, a beginner. With filming, however, there are a few things you need to be aware of. And that's also something that I noticed, because, as I said, I'm not the best filmer when it comes outside to outdoor shots. A lot of things, what I have is, I have 7 lenses, I guess, from which are Micro Four Thirds compatible. Not one of them has image stabilization. So that's point number one, because the G7 doesn't have image stabilization. So if you go into your typical film roll where you have to walk in the funny way to keep your image stabilized, it doesn't really help in this case that the G7 doesn't have image stabilization. It doesn't mean that you can't film with it, but if you mount it on this small Crane M2 and you keep it like this, you are going to experience the lack of image stabilization. And even if you go, I tested it with somebody who is more of a film shooter or a cinematographer, somebody who works with cinema, difficult one. Yeah, he could pretty much get it relatively stable, but the image was still shocking at times, or simply not stable. So with that, with the G7, you need to keep that into account, is that the image stabilization itself, if that's a big thing when you're really shooting outdoors. I use it for vlogging, the G7. I find it fantastic. For simple barrel rolls or for simple shoots in and out, it's okay. But the minute you start moving, you either need a lens with image stabilization or a pretty good rig. And why would you then invest in the Crane M2? You can also go to the Crane 2. And the latest one, I think, is the Wheeler or something which come out, which is a bit more sturdier and can support full DSLR cameras. So I guess that's where your question really is. Can I use the Crane M2 with my G7, yes, except for the vortex mode. Can you use it with your mobile? Oh yes, it's fantastic for that. It really is functional. But if you're really looking to go cinematic and you want to really use this camera for it, unless you have very good a machine with image stabilization, otherwise I would not really do it. I would probably upgrade for 100 or 150 million, sorry, 150 euros, 150 million, 100 milliliters, what do I have? But that is one of the things that you really need to take into account. So with that said, I would really state for those of you like me who use a Lumix G7 extensively, fantastic camera. It's still one of the better ones out there for shooting vlogs or even shooting normal video. As long as you stand still, the minute you actually start moving, you really need to have a very good stable way of walking that doesn't cause too much shock, or you need a lens with good image stabilization. And that is the big down side from the G7, is that it doesn't have image stabilization. If you go in, I believe it's a G8 or G9, whatever it's afterwards, it does have that added feature. So if you're really thinking of buying the G7 purely to shoot videos with, you might want to reconsider. Yeah, if you really buy it like me for the entire photography and what else not, and simple vlogs, simple film shoots, it's okay. You really have a bang for your buck. When it comes to the Crane M2, this lovely baby here, still I would definitely recommend, if you really want to use it for professional or let's say advanced filmography, try to consider some other options. So that's it for today. I hope you found this useful, and Nolan, thank you for the question. It was really fantastic. Keep on asking questions, as you all make me think if you do so. So that's fantastic. That's it. Please don't forget to subscribe and watch my next vlog. Thank you very much and have a very good day.